The rain hammered against my skin as I stood on the porch in nothing but my thin cotton nightgown. My bare feet pressed against the cold wooden planks while thunder rolled across the dark sky. Behind me, the door slammed shut with such force that the entire house seemed to shake. I could still hear Daniel's voice echoing in my ears, filled with a rage I had never witnessed before in our 7 years of marriage. "Get out! Go to your family!" he had screamed, his face twisted into something I barely recognized. "I don't want to see your lying face ever again." I turned back toward the door, my hand reaching for the handle, but it was locked. The deadbolt had clicked into place. Through the window, I could see him pacing back and forth in our living room, his phone pressed to his ear, gesturing wildly as he spoke to someone. My heart pounded in my chest as I tried to make sense of what had just happened. One moment, we had been sleeping peacefully. The next, Daniel's phone had rung at 2 in the morning. He had answered it, listened for barely 30 seconds, then exploded. He had grabbed my arm, dragged me out of bed, and pushed me toward the door. When I tried to ask what was happening, he had only screamed at me to leave. The rain soaked through my nightgown within seconds. I wrapped my arms around myself, shivering as the November wind cut through the thin fabric. Our neighborhood was completely dark except for a single porch light 2 houses down. Everyone was asleep, as they should be at this ungodly hour. I had no phone, no keys, no wallet, nothing. Just the nightgown on my back. I knocked on the door again, harder this time. "Daniel, please. At least let me get some clothes. Let me explain whatever this is." No response. Through the window, I saw him disappear into the hallway, heading toward our bedroom. The lights in the house began turning off one by one until everything was dark. He was going back to bed, leaving me out here in the storm. Panic started to set in. My family lived 3 hours away. I had no way to contact them, no way to get there. My best friend Sarah was out of town for a work conference. I couldn't think of anyone else I could call at this hour, and I had no way to call them anyway. Thunder cracked overhead, so loud it made me jump. The rain was coming down harder now, and I was completely drenched. My teeth chattered uncontrollably. I needed to find shelter, but where? The garage was locked. Our car was inside. I had absolutely nothing. That's when I heard a door open nearby. I looked up to see light spilling out from the house next door. Our neighbor, Marcus Chen, stood in his doorway, a concerned expression on his face. He was wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt, his dark hair messy from sleep. "Rachel," he called out, squinting through the rain. "Is that you?" I had spoken to Marcus perhaps a dozen times since he moved in 6 months ago. He was quiet, kept to himself, worked from home doing something with computers. Daniel had never been particularly friendly with him, but I had always found him polite during our brief encounters. "I'm sorry," I called back, my voice shaking from cold and emotion. "I didn't mean to wake you." He stepped out onto his porch, holding his hand up to shield his eyes from the rain. When he saw me standing there in my soaked nightgown, his eyes widened. He immediately went back inside, and for a moment, I thought he was going to close the door and pretend he hadn't seen anything. But he emerged seconds later with a large umbrella and a blanket. He rushed over, opening the umbrella over both of us. "What happened? Are you okay?" The words caught in my throat. How could I explain this? Daniel locked me out. I don't know why. He got a phone call and he threw me out. Marcus's jaw tightened. He glanced at my house, then back at me. "Come inside. You're freezing." "I shouldn't. I don't want to impose. Maybe he'll calm down and let me back in soon." "Rachel, you're shaking so hard you can barely stand. It's 2 in the morning, it's pouring rain, and you're in a nightgown. You're coming inside." His tone left no room for argument. He wrapped the blanket around my shoulders and guided me toward his house. The warmth hit me as soon as I stepped through his door. His home was neat and simply furnished, with a large desk in the corner covered in computer monitors and equipment. He led me to the couch and disappeared into another room, returning with a stack of dry clothes. These might be too big, but they're warm and dry. The bathroom is down the hall. Take your time. I'll make some tea. I nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. In the bathroom, I caught sight of myself in the mirror. My long dark hair was plastered to my face and neck. My nightgown clung to my body, nearly transparent from the water. Mascara streaked down my cheeks from tears I didn't remember crying. I looked like a disaster. The clothes Marcus had given me were soft joggers and a hoodie that smelled like fresh laundry detergent. They were indeed too big, but they were warm and dry, and that was all that mattered. I used a towel to dry my hair as best I could, then washed the mascara from my face. When I returned to the living room, Marcus was setting 2 cups of tea on the coffee table. He had also laid out a thick blanket on the couch. He gestured for me to sit, and I did, pulling the blanket over my legs. "Thank you," I whispered. "I'm so sorry about this. I don't know what's happening." He sat in the chair across from me, his expression gentle but concerned. "You don't need to apologize. Do you want to talk about it?" I wrapped my hands around the warm teacup, letting the heat seep into my frozen fingers. His phone rang. Someone called him at 2 in the morning. He answered it, listened for maybe 30 seconds, then he just exploded. He started yelling at me, calling me a liar, telling me to go to my family. He wouldn't let me explain or ask what was wrong. He just dragged me to the door and shoved me out. "Did he hurt you?" Marcus asked carefully. I shook my head. "No." He was rough, but he didn't hit me or anything. But I've never seen him like that. In 7 years, Daniel has never raised his voice at me. Not once. We've had disagreements, sure, but nothing like this. I don't understand what could have made him so angry. Marcus was quiet for a moment, studying his tea. "What does Daniel do for work?" "He's a financial advisor." "Why? And you? What do you do?" "I'm a teacher. 4th grade." "I don't see what that has to do with anything." "I'm just trying to understand the situation," Marcus said gently. "Has anything unusual happened lately? Any arguments? Any strange behavior from him?" I thought back over the past few weeks. He's been stressed about work. He's been coming home late, spending a lot of time on his phone. But he said it was just a difficult client situation. Nothing out of the ordinary. Then something occurred to me. Wait. Last week, he asked me if I had been talking to his brother. I said no, which was true. We haven't spoken to Greg in months. Daniel and Greg had a falling out over some family business issue. But Daniel seemed suspicious, like he didn't believe me. "His brother," Marcus repeated. "Could Greg have been the one who called tonight?" "Maybe. But why would that make Daniel throw me out of the house?" Fresh tears started to fall. I don't understand any of this. I love my husband. I've never lied to him about anything important. I've never cheated, never betrayed his trust. Why would he treat me like this? Marcus leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. "Rachel, I'm going to be honest with you. This kind of sudden, explosive behavior usually happens for one of a few reasons. Either someone told him something that made him believe you betrayed him, or he's the one who's been doing something wrong and he's projecting it onto you." The thought hit me like a physical blow. "You think he's cheating on me?" "I don't know. I'm just saying it's a possibility. People who are guilty of something often try to deflect by accusing others. The late nights, the phone calls, the stress he claimed was about work, those could all be signs." I pulled the blanket tighter around myself. The idea of Daniel cheating had never crossed my mind. He had always been attentive, loving, present. But then again, I never would have imagined him throwing me out of our house in the middle of a rainstorm either. What should I do? I asked, feeling lost. For tonight, you should rest. It's almost 3 in the morning. You can take my bed. I'll sleep on the couch. No, I couldn't possibly. I insist, Marcus interrupted. You've been through a trauma tonight. You need proper rest. In the morning, when you're thinking more clearly, you can decide what to do next. Maybe call your family, maybe try to talk to Daniel again, maybe contact a lawyer. But right now, you need sleep. I wanted to argue, but the exhaustion was overwhelming. The adrenaline from the past hour was wearing off, leaving me drained and hollow. Marcus showed me to his bedroom, which was as neat and simple as the rest of his house. He left me alone, closing the door quietly behind him. I climbed into the bed, pulling the covers up to my chin. The sheets smelled clean and fresh, but despite my exhaustion, sleep didn't come easily. My mind kept replaying the scene over and over. Daniel's face, twisted with rage, his hands on my arm, pulling me from our bed. His voice, screaming words I had never heard him say before. The sound of the door slamming. The click of the lock. Who had called him? What had they said? Why wouldn't he let me explain? The questions circled endlessly until finally, somewhere around dawn, I fell into a fitful sleep. I woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar curtains. For a moment, I was disoriented, unsure where I was. Then the memories of the night before came flooding back. I sat up quickly, my heart racing. The clock on the nightstand read 9:30 in the morning. I found Marcus in the kitchen, making breakfast. He smiled when he saw me. Good morning. How did you sleep? As well as could be expected, I said. Thank you again for taking me in. I should probably go see if Daniel has calmed down. Marcus's expression grew serious. Before you do, there's something you should know. I heard voices outside around 7 this morning. I looked out and saw Daniel putting suitcases in his car. He left about an hour ago. My stomach dropped. He left. Where would he go? I don't know. But Rachel, I think you need to be prepared for the possibility that this isn't just a temporary fight. The way he was packing, it looked like he was leaving for a while. I felt dizzy. This couldn't be happening. Marcus guided me to a chair and set a plate of eggs and toast in front of me, but I couldn't imagine eating. I need to get into my house, I said. I need my phone, my keys, my clothes. Everything. Do you have a spare key anywhere? I thought for a moment. Sarah has one, but she's out of town until tomorrow. What about a window? Any that might be unlocked. The bathroom window. We always leave it cracked for ventilation. 20 minutes later, after borrowing a pair of Marcus's flip-flops, I was standing in my backyard. The bathroom window was indeed cracked open. It was small, but I was thin enough to fit through. Marcus helped boost me up, and I squeezed through the narrow opening, dropping down into my bathroom with a thud. The house was eerily silent. I walked through the rooms, my heart pounding. In the bedroom, I found evidence of Daniel's hurried packing. Drawers hung open, hangers lay scattered on the floor, his side of the closet was mostly empty. On the nightstand, his wedding ring sat next to a folded piece of paper with my name on it. My hands shook as I picked up the note and unfolded it. Rachel, I know everything. Greg told me what you did. I trusted you completely, and you betrayed me in the worst possible way. I can't even look at you without feeling sick. Don't try to contact me. My lawyer will be in touch about the divorce. You can have the house. I don't want anything that reminds me of you. Daniel. I read it 3 times, but it still made no sense. What did I do? What did Greg tell him? This had to be a misunderstanding. Greg had never liked me. He thought Daniel had married beneath him when he chose a teacher instead of someone from a wealthy family like his. Could Greg have lied to Daniel about something? I grabbed my phone from the nightstand and immediately dialed Daniel's number. It went straight to voicemail. I tried again. Same result. He had blocked me or turned off his phone. I tried calling Greg next. He answered on the third ring. Well, Greg's smug voice came through the speaker. If it isn't my dear sister-in-law. Or should I say, soon-to-be ex-sister-in-law. Greg, what did you tell Daniel? What lies did you feed him? Lies. He laughed, a cold, cruel sound. I told him the truth, Rachel. I told him about your little affair. About how you've been sneaking around behind his back for months. What affair? Greg, I haven't been having an affair. I've never cheated on Daniel. Really? So you're saying you haven't been spending time with that neighbor of yours? The computer guy? I've seen you, Rachel. I've watched you talking to him in the driveway, smiling and laughing. I even have pictures of you going into his house late at night. My blood ran cold. You've been spying on me? I've been watching my brother's back since his wife clearly doesn't care about their marriage. Last week, I saw you go into that guy's house at 10 at night. You didn't come out until after midnight. So don't stand there and tell me you're innocent. I tried to think back to last week. Then I remembered. That was when Daniel was away on his business trip. Marcus's kitchen flooded from a burst pipe. He knocked on our door asking if he could use our phone because his cell was dead and he needed to call a plumber. I let him borrow my phone, but the plumber said he couldn't come until morning. Marcus had no water, so I invited him to have dinner with me. We talked, we watched a movie, and yes, it was after midnight when he left because we lost track of time. But nothing happened, Greg. We just talked. Sure you did. Just like I'm sure nothing happened all those other times you two have been friendly with each other. Daniel saw the pictures, Rachel. He knows you've been lying to him. I haven't been lying. There's nothing to lie about. Marcus is just a neighbor, a friend. You've destroyed my marriage over your twisted interpretation of innocent interactions. If they were so innocent, why didn't you tell Daniel about that night? Greg's voice was triumphant. Why didn't you mention having another man over while your husband was away? The truth was, I hadn't thought to mention it. It had seemed so insignificant. Daniel knew Marcus and I were friendly. He had never expressed any jealousy or concern. It simply hadn't occurred to me that having a neighbor over for dinner while Daniel was traveling would be something worth reporting. You know what, Greg? You've always hated me. You've been looking for a way to break us up since the day Daniel proposed. You never thought I was good enough for your precious brother. This is just your way of finally getting what you wanted. Believe what you want, Greg said. But Daniel believes me. He always will. You're out, Rachel. You lose. He hung up. I stood there in my bedroom, phone clutched in my shaking hand, trying to process what had just happened. Greg had twisted innocent moments into evidence of infidelity. He had fed those lies to Daniel, who had believed them without even giving me a chance to explain. I tried calling Daniel again. Blocked. I sent a text explaining everything. The message wouldn't deliver. He had blocked me completely. I sank onto the bed, the note crumpling in my fist. My marriage was over, destroyed by lies and suspicion, and I couldn't even defend myself because my husband wouldn't listen. A knock at the front door startled me. I walked through the house and looked through the peephole. Marcus stood on the porch, concern etched on his face. I opened the door. I heard you crying from next door, he said quietly. Are you okay? The kindness in his voice broke something inside me. I burst into tears, and Marcus stepped inside, closing the door behind him. He didn't touch me, just stood there, giving me space to fall apart. When I could finally speak again, I told him everything. About Greg's spying, his twisted interpretation of that innocent evening, how he had fed lies to Daniel, how my husband had believed those lies without question. "This is my fault," Marcus said, his face pale. "If I hadn't come to your door that night, if I hadn't asked to use your phone, none of this would have happened." "No," I said firmly. "This is Greg's fault for lying, and Daniel's fault for believing him without giving me a chance to explain. You did nothing wrong. I did nothing wrong. But our marriage is over anyway because Daniel would rather believe his brother's lies than trust the woman he promised to love forever." "What are you going to do?" I wiped my eyes, trying to pull myself together. "I need to call my parents. I need to figure out my next steps. Daniel said his lawyer would contact me about the divorce. I guess I need to get a lawyer too." "Do you have to work today?" I glanced at the clock. "I'm supposed to be at school in an hour. I need to call in sick." "Take care of yourself first," Marcus said. "Everything else can wait." He left me alone to make my calls. I called the school first, explaining that I had a family emergency and needed a personal day. Then I called my parents. My mother answered on the second ring. "Rachel? Honey, what's wrong? You sound terrible." Through tears, I explained everything. My mother listened in shocked silence, occasionally gasping or making sounds of disbelief. When I finished, there was a long pause. "We're coming to get you," she said finally. "Your father and I will leave within the hour. We'll be there by this afternoon. Pack whatever you need. You're coming home with us." "Mom, I don't want to burden you." "You're not a burden, you're our daughter. That man threw you out of your house in the middle of the night based on lies. You don't need to stay there another minute. Pack your things. We'll be there soon." After hanging up, I moved through the house in a daze, packing clothes and personal items into suitcases. I gathered my laptop, my important documents, photographs from before my marriage. I took my grandmother's jewelry box, my books, the things that were mine alone. I was in the middle of packing when there was another knock at the door. This time, when I looked through the peephole, I saw a woman in a business suit holding a briefcase. My stomach sank. That was fast. I opened the door. "Can I help you?" "Rachel Thompson?" When I nodded, she handed me an envelope. "You've been served. Divorce papers from Daniel Thompson. Have a good day." She turned and walked away before I could respond. I stood there holding the envelope, feeling numb. Less than 12 hours after throwing me out, Daniel had already filed for divorce. He must have had the papers ready to go, must have been planning this. I tore open the envelope and scanned the documents. Daniel was filing for divorce on grounds of adultery. He was asking for a dissolution of the marriage, wanted no alimony, no support, just a clean break. The house would be mine, as he had said in his note. He wanted nothing from me except to never see me again. I called a lawyer my friend had used during her divorce. His secretary said he could see me the next day. I made the appointment, adding it to the growing list of ways my life was falling apart. By the time my parents arrived that afternoon, I had packed everything I needed. My father's face was set in hard lines of anger, while my mother looked like she had been crying the entire drive. They hugged me tightly, and for the first time since this nightmare began, I felt safe. "Where is he?" my father demanded. "Where's Daniel? I want to talk to him." "He's gone, Dad. He packed up and left this morning. He won't answer my calls. He's already filed for divorce." My father's jaw clenched. "That coward. He doesn't even have the decency to face you like a man." "Michael," my mother said softly, placing a hand on his arm. "Getting angry won't help Rachel right now. Let's just get her home." As my father loaded my suitcases into their car, Marcus appeared from his house. He approached cautiously. Mrs. Thompson? Mr. Thompson? I'm Marcus Chin, Rachel's neighbor. I just wanted you to know that your daughter did nothing wrong. The accusations against her are completely false. I was there, and I can testify to the truth if needed. My father studied him for a long moment. You're the neighbor Greg told Daniel about? Yes, sir. Rachel helped me when I had a plumbing emergency. We had dinner and watched a movie, completely innocent and in public areas of her home. Nothing inappropriate happened. I have nothing but respect for your daughter. She's a kind person who got caught up in someone else's malicious lies. My father nodded slowly. Thank you for taking care of her last night. My wife and I are grateful someone was looking out for her when her own husband wasn't. I hugged Marcus goodbye, thanking him one more time for everything. I'm sorry you got dragged into this mess. I'm only sorry I couldn't do more to fix it, he said. Take care of yourself, Rachel. You deserve so much better than this. The drive to my parents' house was quiet. I sat in the back seat, watching my neighborhood disappear in the rearview mirror. 7 years of my life, gone in a single night because of lies and distrust. Over the following weeks, I fell into a strange routine. I met with my lawyer, who assured me that we could fight the adultery claim since it was false. But did I really want to drag this out? Did I want to fight for a marriage with someone who wouldn't even hear my side of the story? My lawyer advised me that Marcus could provide a sworn statement about that evening, and we could potentially sue Greg for defamation. But again, what would that accomplish? Daniel had made his choice. He had chosen to believe his brother over his wife. Even if I proved the accusations false, would I want to stay married to someone who had so little faith in me? I went back to work, throwing myself into teaching. My students were a welcome distraction from the chaos of my personal life. My colleagues were supportive, offering words of encouragement without prying too much into the details. Sarah returned from her conference and was horrified by what had happened. She showed up at my parents' house with wine and ice cream, ready to spend the entire night listening to me vent. Having her support meant everything. One evening, about 3 weeks after that terrible night, I received a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Rachel? It's Daniel. My heart stopped. I hadn't heard his voice since he had screamed at me to leave. Now he sounded tired, defeated. What do you want, Daniel? I need to talk to you. Can we meet somewhere? Please. Every instinct told me to say no, to hang up, to protect myself from more hurt. But part of me needed closure, needed to look him in the eye and hear what he had to say. Fine. There's a coffee shop on Main Street near my parents' house. Tomorrow at 2 o'clock. I'll be there. Thank you, Rachel. I spent the next day anxious and on edge. My mother offered to come with me, but I needed to do this alone. I arrived at the coffee shop 15 minutes early, claiming a corner table where I could see the door. Daniel walked in exactly at 2. He looked terrible. He had lost weight, his face was drawn, and there were dark circles under his eyes. When he saw me, something flickered across his expression. Regret. Shame. I couldn't tell. He sat down across from me, his hands folded on the table. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. I was wrong, he said finally. About everything. I'm so sorry, Rachel. I stared at him, waiting for more. I spoke to Marcus, he continued. I went to see him last week. I demanded to know the truth about that night. He told me everything, exactly what you said. He even showed me the plumber's invoice from the next morning. And then I started thinking about all the other times Greg claimed to have evidence of you cheating. Every single one had an innocent explanation that I never bothered to ask you about because I was so convinced by Greg's lies. Why? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Why did you believe him so easily? Why didn't you trust me? Daniel's face crumpled. Because I was the one cheating. There's a woman at my office, Amanda. We had been having an affair for about 4 months. I felt guilty, and when Greg told me you were also cheating, it was almost a relief. Like it somehow made what I was doing okay, or at least made me less of a villain. I wanted to believe his lies because it made me feel better about my own betrayal. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. All of this, everything I had been through, and he had been the one betraying our marriage all along. Marcus had been right. So you threw me out, destroyed our marriage, filed for divorce, all because it was convenient for you to believe I was cheating too? The anger in my voice was cold and sharp. I know. I know how awful that sounds. I've ended things with Amanda. I've been in therapy, trying to figure out why I did what I did. I want to fix this, Rachel. I want to fix us. I laughed, a bitter sound with no humor in it. Fix us? Daniel, there is no us anymore. You didn't just cheat on me. You threw me out of our house in the middle of a rainstorm in my nightgown. You wouldn't listen to me, wouldn't let me explain. You blocked my number, filed for divorce within hours, and let me believe I had done something wrong. Do you have any idea what these past few weeks have been like for me? I know I hurt you. Hurt me? You destroyed me. You took 7 years of marriage, 7 years of love and trust and partnership, and you threw it away based on your brother's lies. Lies that you wanted to believe because they made you feel better about your own infidelity. Do you really think we can come back from that? Daniel reached across the table, trying to take my hand, but I pulled away. I love you, Rachel. I know I've made terrible mistakes, but I love you. Can't we try to work through this? I looked at the man I had married, the man I had built a life with, and felt nothing but sadness. You know what the worst part is? If you had just talked to me that night, if you had shown me the pictures and asked me to explain, I would have told you everything. Marcus and the plumbing emergency, having him over for dinner because I felt bad leaving him without water. It was all so innocent, so easily explained. But you didn't want explanations. You wanted an excuse to feel better about yourself. You're right. I was a coward and a cheat, and I destroyed the best thing in my life. But I'm begging you, please give me another chance. I stood up, gathering my purse. The divorce papers are signed, Daniel. It's over. I hope you find happiness someday, and I hope you learn to be honest with the next person you're with. But that person won't be me. I deserve someone who trusts me, who communicates with me, who doesn't throw me away the moment it's convenient. Rachel, please. Goodbye, Daniel. I walked out of the coffee shop without looking back. My hands were shaking, my heart was racing, but I felt lighter somehow. Clearer. I had spent weeks questioning myself, wondering what I could have done differently, how I could have prevented this. But the truth was, there was nothing I could have done. Daniel's choices were his own, and I refused to carry the weight of them anymore. 3 months later, the divorce was finalized. I had moved into a small apartment near my school, a cozy one-bedroom that was all mine. I had started painting again, something I hadn't done since college. I joined a book club, took up yoga, spent time with friends I had neglected during my marriage. Sarah and I met for coffee one Saturday morning, and she smiled when she saw me. You look happy. I am, I said, surprised to realize it was true. I'm actually happy. Any regrets? I thought about it for a moment. About the marriage ending? No. About the time I spent with Daniel? Some good came from it. I learned a lot about myself, about what I want and what I won't tolerate. I learned that I'm stronger than I thought I was. What about Marcus? Sarah asked with a knowing smile. Have you talked to him? I felt my cheeks flush. We've texted a few times. He invited me to dinner next week. And are you going? I think I am. Not as anything romantic, just as friends. But who knows? Maybe someday, when I'm ready. You deserve someone who sees how amazing you are, Sarah said, reaching across to squeeze my hand. I smiled. I'm learning to see it myself. And right now, that's enough. That night, Daniel's thrown me out in the rain seemed like something that had happened to a different person in a different lifetime. I had survived the storm, literally and figuratively. I had found my strength in the darkest moment and had built something new from the wreckage. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. Still on for dinner Tuesday? I smiled as I typed my response. Absolutely. Looking forward to it. Whatever came next, I was ready for it. The girl who had stood shivering on that porch in her nightgown was gone. In her place was a woman who knew her worth, who wouldn't accept less than she deserved, who had learned that sometimes the ending of one story is just the beginning of another. And my new story was just beginning.